months, I sat down to film a video for you guys, and my apologies for that. Every few months, I end up having a heftier load at work, and so I was dealing with that, just along with some family being in town. Then on top of all of that, we've also been dealing with some true crime style stuff ourselves. My neighborhood has been targeted, I guess you could say, or something, where there is someone who has been seen on cameras going around with a weapon trying to break in and enter into cars. So that's been fairly scary and stressful to deal with. But I do have hopes because the police say they know who the man is who is doing this. They do have good video of him doing so. But yeah, just really scary to know someone is walking around outside your home in the middle of the night with a weapon. Absolutely terrifying. So yeah, that's what's been going on in my world here. But today I have another true crime case for you guys. This one is, I remember hearing about this case and thinking how crazy it was. So, one last thing before we dive in. If you are new here, it truly would help if you could like, subscribe, or comment to this video. Also, my husband has agreed to film an ASMR video with me once we hit 15,000 subscribers. We're only like 500 away, so we're super close. I think we can do it. Let's go ahead and dive into today's case. This one is very, very odd to me. I don't know what to think of it. And also, if you hear any noises outside, I'm just now seeing some thunder and, well, seeing lightning, hearing some thunder, so you might hear that as well. Alright, today we are going to be discussing the disappearance of Lee Occhi. Lee Occhi was born on August the 21st in the year 1979 to her parents, Dawn Occhi and Vicky Felton. Lee lived in Honolulu, Hawaii with her parents. However, they did get divorced just a few years after Lee was born. Dawn and Vicky were completely divorced by the year 1981, and after this, Dawn moved to Germany. Both Dawn and Vicky were in the army, so the relocation for Dawn to Germany was just pretty normal for him. He still really maintained a good relationship with Lee, though, even though he moved out of the country, and she would even go visit her dad in Germany. Eventually, Dawn moved back to the United States, and when he came back, he settled in Virginia. Around this time, house was just where Leigh could go get her schedule for the year and things like that. Vicky had to leave for work just before 8 a.m. on the morning of the 27th, and Leigh's grandmother was not coming to pick her up until later that morning. This was going to be Leigh's first time at home alone, but Vicky trusted Leigh, and since she was 13 years old, Vicky believed that Leigh would be completely fine. Around 8:30 a.m. that morning, Vicky had made it to work, and her work was located less than 2 miles away from her house in Tupelo. And Vicky knew that a bad storm was going to be coming through the area. This storm was related to Hurricane Andrew that had just recently hit the coast, and apparently some remnants of the hurricane were going to be going up through Tupelo. Vicky suddenly became very concerned for Leigh and tried to phone her daughter at home just to alert her about the upcoming storm. When Vicky called the house, Leigh, however, did not answer, and she immediately grew even more worried about Leigh. Vicky tried to call one more time, yet still no answer from Leigh. At this point, Vicky decided that it would be best for her to go ahead and drive back home, since she did not work too far, and just check in on Leigh to see if she needed anything. Vicky arrived back at her house shortly before 9 a.m. And when she arrived back home, she saw that the garage door to their house was open and that the light was on in her garage. This meant that someone had recently opened the garage door, as the red light would automatically go off after a few minutes of being opened. The door to the inside of the house was unlocked as well, and as soon as Vicky entered the home, she noticed that there was some blood smeared on the wall by the door. Vicky began to shout Leigh's name, but Leigh did not answer. Vicky ran to Leigh's room and found her blanket balled up on the floor, but Leigh was nowhere to be found. By 9 a.m. that morning on the 27th, Vicky had called the police and reported Leigh as missing. When the police arrived, they searched the house right away, and while searching, they found quite a bit more blood. There was the blood smeared on the wall that Vicky had initially seen, along with blood in Leigh's bathroom, inside Leigh's bedroom, and on a nightgown that had been stuffed in the bottom of Leigh's hamper. Vicky was told to look over the house quickly and see if she believed anything was missing, and Vicky told the authorities that she believed a few items of clothing belonging to Leigh and a few other small things were possibly gone. The police continued to search the house for clues. However, it did not appear as if anyone had forced their way into the home at all. Lee's stepfather. Inside the envelope was Lee's glasses. The envelope had twice as many stamps on it as needed to mail the glasses, and the street name was misspelled. The package was sent from Boonville, Mississippi, which was only about 30 miles north of Tupelo. The FBI became involved after Lee's glasses arrived back at her house. The FBI tested the envelope and the stamps, hoping that they would be able to catch someone involved in Lee's disappearance. But unfortunately, they found that the stamps had been adhered to the envelope using water. The police and FBI looked at the envelope even further, but eventually came to the conclusion that they believed the glasses had been sent as a distraction to the case. They thought the misspelling, who it was addressed to, the stamps, everything, was just to get the police off of whatever trail they were following. On November the 9th, in the year 1993, some news broke that the remains of a human skull had been found in a soybean field, and that these remains belonged to Lee Occhi. However, a few days later, it was determined that the remains found did not belong to Lee. They had apparently used some old dental records, and this was not correct. It was determined that the remains belonged to a 27-year-old woman named Pollyanna Keith, who had only recently gone missing in March of the year 1993. During this time, the police continued to look into Vicky. However, she was never officially named by the police as a suspect. Several of the police claim that since she had failed the polygraph exams and really was not supportive and helpful in doing widespread searches for her daughter or even answering the police's questions, they believed she could definitely be involved in her daughter's disappearance. The police also questioned Vicky as to why she called Lee so soon after she left home that morning. They believed it odd that Vicky claimed she was worried about Lee so suddenly, even though Vicky and the whole city of Tupelo is also rumored, though, that Leigh had a boyfriend at the time who was only 11 years old, and he was never questioned about Leigh's disappearance. So sadly, this is the only information we have about the missing Lee Occhi. This story just hurts my heart, especially since Leigh was so young. Looking at the evidence, though, I do believe that Leigh most likely knew whoever had come into her home that day, whether it was, a family member or someone from church or someone from school. She most likely knew them. Something bad was happening to her, and she ran, most likely hitting her head, causing whoever that was there